There are some reports getting significant traction that the Department of Justice is deliberately waiting until after the midterm election to indict Donald Trump in order to not be seen as making this political in order to affect the midterms. Now, a lot of common sense applied to the circumstances suggests that it's not likely Trump would be indicted before the midterms anyway. And I'll tell you why in a moment. Couple of different reports here. DOJ likely to wait past the midterms to reveal any Trump charges. That's from Bloomberg's Chris Strom. Federal prosecutors are likely to wait until after the November election to announce any charges against Trump if they determine that he broke laws. Business Insider reporting, if prosecutors decide to indict Trump, they'll wait until after the November midterms based on a report. The move would be in accordance with longstanding policy that bars prosecutors from taking overt steps that could affect the outcome of an election. Attorney General Merrick Garland also recently introduced new restrictions to, quote, maintain public trust in the DOJ. So there's a couple different things that I think are important to mention here. First of all, Donald Trump isn't on any ballot, so it's a particular layer removed to if what is happening here is the DOJ is saying we're going to bring charges, but not until after the election. Trump's not actually on any ballot. So it would be better to just do the job that you're trying to do. Stop going so out of your way not to be political, because at the end of the day, when you're investigating current or former elected officials, you're not going to avoid allegations that it is political in some sense. Now, if Donald Trump were on the ballot, if Donald Trump were running for something in November, and 2 weeks before he is charged with a crime, although it still could be completely correct and apolitical, we've gotten all the evidence, we've gotten all the, as Sean Hannity calls it, the I's crossed and the T's dotted, and we're ready to go. If that's the timing, to deliberately wait until after the election, that actually seems more politically motivated than just charging when you're ready to charge. But that's not the case here because Trump's not even on the ballot. So if this were the calculation that were being made by the DOJ, it is a very indirect thing where it's, well, even though Trump's not on the ballot, there are members of his party on the ballot and people that he has endorsed on the ballot. So let's wait. I would be completely against that. But I actually think that this entire narrative may not be accurate. And the reason I say that is it does take a while to put together charges. And according to people familiar with what's going on, 8.5 weeks for charges. They just got a huge chunk of documents. It's now September in August, weeks ago. It is often the case that it takes months after search warrants are served to finalize what are all the charges. Now, without a doubt, when the FBI decides we're going into the home of a former president, which they don't often decide, arguably this is the first time it's happened, you'd better damn well be sure that they already know likely charges that are on the other end of this. And they know exactly what they're looking for and what they believe took place. But at the same time, you've got to go through every document. You have to see the legal implications of every document that's there. Later, I'm going to tell you about multiple Trump associates who believe there are more documents or there are copies of documents that Donald Trump still has stashed elsewhere. And so it's not particularly realistic to think that within 10 weeks of getting the documents to begin with, you're already going to be charging Donald Trump. So while I completely disagree with the idea of deliberately waiting to file charges until after the election, because Trump's not even on the ballot, I totally disagree with that if that is what is going on. It seems more likely to me that the timeline is going to extend beyond the first week of November anyway. And I do believe we will see an indictment, but I think it's going to come later. Now, when we see the indictment, it will be very interesting to see how Trump's lawyers react. And we have a little bit of a preview of that. The David Pakman Show's longest running sponsor is Blinkist, the app that takes thousands of nonfiction books, boils each of them down into an explainer you can read or listen to in 15 minutes. Blinkist also condenses episodes of popular podcasts into 15-minute explainers. I've been using Blinkist for years to supplement the books I read. I love reading. I read all the time. but there's even more books I don't have time to read. And you can often find those nonfiction books on Blinkist and consume the entire thing in 15 minutes. My favorite new feature on the app is Blinkist Connect, which lets you share your Blinkist premium account with someone else. You basically get 2 accounts for the price of one, and then you can also share Blinkist books and podcasts between users. I have a joint Blinkist premium account with my girlfriend. Blinkist Connect lets us sync together what books and podcasts we're listening to on Blinkist, sparks many interesting discussions. We just listened to Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power, the new version. Robert Greene, super interesting writer. Find his books fascinating. You can try Blinkist free for 7 days and get 25% off a premium subscription at Blinkist.com/David Pakman. The link is down below.